Hello, everyone, and welcome to our creative session, Polymer Clay Pendants. We are live with Living Proof Exhibit for this awesome workshop that we were supposed to have a couple of weeks ago, but the storm knocked out power to everyone involved, and so we had to reschedule for tonight. So we are lucky enough to be live with Marla, an awesome local artist, to teach us how to make polymer clay pendants. So I will let Marla take it away.
Hello. Tonight we're going to be working with polymer clay, and we're going to be doing a specific technique with polymer clay, and we will be able to form what we make into a pendant. And the kits that you picked up had a foil box, which you will be able to bake your clay in, because polymer clay is a very safe substance, and you can bake it in your regular oven or in a toaster oven at 275 degrees. So, but this little foil tray will be exclusive for your polymer clay, so you don't have to use your regular cookware. And you should have a little paint pot. It's about a 1-inch paint pot with a couple of rhinestones in there in case you want to embellish your pendant. But that paint pot also acts as a cutter, because we will want to cut an approximately 1-inch circle out of your clay to fit into your pendant, which you also received a bezel, a little round bezel that you can put on a chain, or you can put on the ribbon necklace that I provided. We didn't provide rollers, but this is the kind of roller that you normally use with polymer clay. It's an acrylic roller. What I did was I put a marker in each one of the packages so that you could use it to roll out the clay. If it's uncomfortable, just take a pill bottle or a jar and use that to roll out your clay. You have a blade, which I have to warn you to be very careful about using the blade. Keep it away from kids, keep it away from your fingers. Just use it for cutting the clay. And then I also put a dowel in your packet, and that's for making holes, you'll see. And I put a toothpick in there, if you can find that. And I put the important thing is a 5-level clay stack, a 2-inch 5-level clay stack. And then I put a piece of parchment paper, and I put a tip sheet, an instruction sheet, which you might want to save as you go into using polymer clay more. The technique that we're going to be doing is called Komen Greater. Now, Komen Greater started out as a metal technique, a Japanese metal technique, and in the 1700s, they used this metal technique to create adornments for swords, for the samurai swords. So the way it was done is with layers of different metals. Makume means wood grain, and Gane means metal. So we're not really doing it with metal, but we're attaining this wood grain, this makume, the same way they did with metal, but we're doing it in clay. Okay, so let's talk about some of the other tools. Now, this is an important tool here. You probably recognize it as a pasta machine, and it is. And you can, if you have an old pasta machine, you thought you were going to be making pasta, and you bought a pasta machine. and you put it away up in a back corner of your kitchen, you can take that out and you can use it for your polymer clay. Now, don't use it for polymer clay and pasta. Use it for one or the other, but that's something you can use. The clay machine here can be adjusted to various thicknesses. So I prepared some clay. The clay comes in a package like this, and you can break off a piece of clay, and you can run it through the pasta machine. And I'll just give you a little demonstration of how the pasta machine works. And I put Frank in. And it elongates your strip of clay. And I'm putting it through again. The conditioning is really important, and all the clay that you received has been conditioned all over my dining room table. And so it's quite a process, because I like to put it through about 20 times. So what that conditioning does is makes it pliable, but it also, there's the polymer chemical aspect of the clay where the particles all come together. And so that's, it's an important thing to do, is to condition your clay. So I have other pieces of clay here, and I did several colors. And I just wanted to show you what they all look like. And then I'm going to set them aside, because what I did was I had stacked them up, and I had cut 2-inch squares of the polymer clay. Okay, and I rolled it out, got out any air bubbles. You can also put it through on a thicker setting of the pasta machine, and then we'll go through the cutting and stacking process. So what I want to show you is what to do with your stack of clay. We're outside, so it's kind of sticky, but I do have to say that it's a good idea to refrigerate your clay in between steps. So what I'm going to do, I love using parchment paper, because not only can I roll clay out, I can cut it on there too. You still have to be careful, maybe put a magazine or something underneath it. But I roll it, I cut it, and I can take this and I can bake on it too. So I can put this right into my foil pan and bake right onto the parchment paper. So parchment paper is, to me, an essential thing. You can live without the pasta machine, because like I said, you can condition clay with your hands, you can roll it with a roller, but parchment paper is something really good to have. Okay, so I've taken my stack of clay and I'm going to roll over it, just to make sure that all those pieces are stuck together. And then I'm going to take my blade and I'm going to cut the stack in half. Okay, so I have 2 pieces. Now I'm going to put those stacks, those half pieces, one on top of the other, and I'm going to roll it again. And like I said, use a jar, use a pill bottle, anything that, you know, is round and fairly solid. All right, so I have my stack. All right, now I'm going to try to compress it a little more. I'm going to do it going in both directions. It's getting a little misshapen, but don't worry. You can get it back into a rectangle or square later. Okay, so we have our stack like this. And you see we're getting some cool stripes, which actually sometimes if you want, you can cut the edge off and use that for making jewelry or making adornments on picture frames or whatever. Okay, all right. Then I'm going to take my stack and I'm going to cut it in half again. Okay, I have two pieces. I'm going to stack them again. Don't worry if they're uneven, doesn't matter. But as close to even as possible. Okay, and then I'm going to roll again. You can press down and roll. We want to get all the air pockets out, and we want to have some nice looking layers there. Okay, and then I'm stretching it a little bit to get it into a rectangle shape again, pressing it in. Okay. I think what we're going to do is we're going to make one more cut down the middle and stack it again. It's really sticky. Okay, so I have a nice stack. I don't know if you can see how many layers we have in there, but it's kind of neat. All right, so once again, I'm going to be pressing the sides, the ends into a rectangular shape. So it's probably about 1 by 2 inches right now. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to make some cuts into this clay, into this layered stack of clay. And we're going to be poking things into it. So some of the things that I suggest would be your blade that you have. You can really cut it all the way through, but remember where all the pieces are, because you'll press it back in again. So what I'm going to do, I have a wavy blade. And sometimes you see blades like this to cut carrots and stuff, but this one is specifically made for doing clay. So I'm going to, and these blades, they're made by Sculpey. And you can use these and you can bend them, which is really nice. So you can make curvy cuts. So I'm making a cut, and I will show you. Making another cut across, I made like an X. I'm making one that's more across the whole rectangle, and I'm making a straight. So we'll see if I'll hold it up so you can see my cuts. And that's where they are. Okay. But you can cut it whatever way you want. Then we're going to take your dowel, or know, I have some kind of a skewer here, but any kind of pointy things that'll dig into the dough. So I put the clay back after I cut the pieces, and so I'm going to take the dowel, and I'm going to go down a couple places in the clay. Actually, I did like 4 places, but it doesn't matter. It's whatever you want to do. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that, but there are 4 holes. Then I'd like you to take your toothpick and go in other places and just stick it all the way down into the clay. All right, so simple tools, cheap tools. Almost everything that I bought for this project, I bought at places like the Dollar Tree. Or, you know, you do have to go to a craft store to buy clay or to buy specialty blades and things like that, and a roller. But all the other stuff is stuff that you either have around the house or you can buy very cheaply. Okay, so my clay block looks like this, all full of holes. Now, somewhere in your box, you should have a little ball of clay. And what this is for making a snake. Because what we want to do is make a snake that's thin enough to feed down into those larger holes. So I'm going to roll my snake. Pretty thin so that it can go down into the hole. And then I'm just going to chop it off with my fingernail at the top. And then I'm going to feed it down into the other holes that I made. So I made 4 holes. It's going to take me a little bit still. And if it doesn't go all the way down, it doesn't matter. Because you're going to see the magic of the origami when we get into the cutting of our clay. All right.
Marla?
Yes?
We have a question.
Okay.
Are you supposed to cut it all the way through?
You can cut it all the way through. But then after you cut it all the way through, you want to press it back together.
And can we see it a little bit more close up? Can you just push it toward the camera a little bit?
Okay. Here we go.
Thank you.
You see it? And
yeah, I think we can see it pretty well.
Side. All right. Got it?
Yep, thank you.
Okay. All right. Now we want to take we want to get everything kind of pressed together. Something else I wanted to talk about is other embellishments that you can use for your clay, either on your layers or after you make your when you make your pendant and before you bake it. You can use mica powder, which gives things a shiny quality. But I have a secret. Now, mica powder is also found in cosmetics. And so you can go to the Dollar Tree and buy a thing of silver or gold eyeshadow or a pinkish eyeshadow. And it's very shiny. You can use that on your polymer clay. It's cheaper than buying the products that are made for art. So our next step is to roll out the top of it to get it kind of flat. have our stack. We can keep making it rectangular by pressing in the sides. Now, normally at this point, and you guys at home can do this, you can put this in the freezer for 15 minutes, a half an hour, or the refrigerator. Just set it in there, set it on top of something, and then take it out so it's firm. And you can leave it. I had clay in there for a couple of days, okay, in my freezer. I take it out, I can slice. It just makes it that much easier to do the final slicing. I will be doing it here outside, but we'll see how it turns out. Okay, so now we're going to cut it horizontally. And a lot of times people use this, use layers, very thin layers, to make a very thin veneer on, say, a picture frame. Or they could use it to make jewelry too. They will roll out a thicker piece of clay and start putting very thin layers of this clay onto, say, a black background or a gold clay background or something. But what we're doing is to make it easier for us, and so we'll have something that we can cut out and put in our bezels. These things, we're going to cut around 1/4 inch slices. And it could be a little thicker than that if you're having problems slicing. And be very, very careful slicing. So I'm taking a blade, and sometimes I will even set it on end and cut it down, which is not.
Marla, we have a question. Sorry.
Okay.
We have the question, what do we do with the clay snake?
The clay snake was fed down into the larger holes that I made with the dowel. So if they make some holes down into the clay with something that's thicker than a toothpick, they have a hole in there. They make the snake thin, and then feed it down into that hole.
Okay, I think that makes sense. Thank you.
And then cut it, just cut it off at the top with your fingernails. Okay? All right. Any other questions? I'm happy to answer.
I don't think so, not right now. I'll keep letting you know.
All right. So now what I'm going to do is, without refrigeration, so we don't know what's going to happen, I am going to cut a slice this way, the long way. Not like this, but across this way. So I'm going to take my blade and I'm going to cut off about 1/4 inch off the top. So this is what I get. And that's the magic of mukume gane. Do you see it? Does everyone see it? Okay. Light, and lean forward. I'm going to put the light on. All right. Here we go. Oh, does that help? Does everybody see it? So this was the top that I cut off, and there is the bottom. Now I could get a couple other slices off of this too, and they will all be different. They'll have a similar color scheme, but because they're at a different place in the stack where the impressions went down, they'll be different. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is, while we're here, I'll cut another piece. Oh, you can you can press it back together if you have a hole in your slice. Maybe that would be the place that you would want to put your rhinestone or a sequin, or you could take another little piece of clay from your ball of clay, and you could have like a 3D effect. There's all kinds of ways of remedying the situation. Now, the clay that I use, two of the clays I use have mica built into the clay. And most of the Sculpey clays don't, but Sculpey makes a clay called, it's either a Fimo, and some of those clays have special effects in it. So they have mica in them. And so one of the clays I have is like a navy blue kind of a clay. It already has sparkles in it. And I believe the silver still has like a mica in it, and maybe copper does too. So anyway, here we go. We've got a nice slice here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take our cutter. Hang on a sec. I'm going to use a cutter like this. You would use your cutter that, your little bottle that you came with. Take the lid off, take the rhinestones out, and turn the bottle part over. And look at your piece and find the most pleasant section that you have there that you would want to keep as a pendant. So I'm looking and I am seeing, I might want to cut a piece that doesn't have a hole in it. But no, I'm seeing a piece that I really kind of like. So here I go. So here is the piece that I cut a circle, about a 1-inch circle. Yeah, it might. There it is, 1-inch circle. So now you can either bake it right in the bezel, and if it's not quite as big as the bezel, you can like kind of form it into the bezel shape, because some of those little bottles are a little smaller than 1 inch. So at this point, you can bake this piece, put it on, you could put it on a piece of parchment paper, put it in your foil, and bake it for a half an hour at 275 degrees. After it comes out, have a bowl of ice water ready. And as soon as it comes out of the oven, drop it into the ice water. Don't ask me what happens, but I think it helps maintain the shine. There are glazes that you can use that are specifically made for polymer clay, but otherwise you use like a water-based varnish, but like Varathane water-based varnish. But the Sculpey works really nice. Comes in a little Sculpey glaze. It comes in a matte finish and it comes in a shiny finish. But so you bake this once again at 275 degrees for a half an hour, and then you can glue it into your bezel. And I provided the participants with a little one-use tube of crazy glue, and that's perfectly fine. Normally I use a glue 6,000, but crazy glue is pretty much the same. Just don't get it on your hands. It's hard to get off. And so there's my bezel, and you can put it, you could put it on your ribbon chain. You could put it on a silver chain that you have, so it matches your bezel. But that's how you do makume gani. Thanks.
So Marla, is this about time when we would want to end the Facebook live broadcast?
So,
all right, perfect. Let me just move over to myself here really quick. Well, thank you everyone who joined in with us today. And if you'd like to join in for next month, we'll have another great creative session with Living Proof Exhibit. And if you sign up now, you can even get a bag of materials so that you can join us via Zoom and do this at home. So thank you all for joining and have a great night.